I am April BB. And I am the host, Brando.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to bring up a charger. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot to bring up a charger. And
how much percentage you got left?
Not enough. See?
Mm.
I better bring a charger.
No, my iPad's about to die too.
Give him a talk.
I am April BB.
Daisy, go get him a charger. Hey, y'all. Woo! Okay. How are y'all this evening? Okie dokie.
Is you live?
Is you live?
I'm April BB.
And I am
Daisy Gang Gang.
Daisy. Come on. Come on, Daisy.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Come on, Daisy.
She's just gonna bark at you.
Come on, come on.
Nope. She
Come
like, yesterday you had me in shambles.
She's like, yesterday. Okay. I am Mr.
Daisy.
Gang. Daisy
ready to play.
Gang.
She's like, I tried to talk to you earlier. Now I got to talk to you on the air.
Well, I don't care when you talk. Ow! Mr. Brando.
And welcome to the status of the Iraqi Dinar IQD chat. Man, we used to call it world news, but right now we just call it gang, gang, gang. No more barking.
Daisy about to get the boot.
You're about to get kicked. Okay, y'all, there's so much news going on. I don't know where to start.
Start with the good stuff.
Okay, the good stuff. Iran quadruples its production of enriched uranium. So if there's nothing going on in Iran, there's no problems, everybody's hunky-dory, why are they quadrupling their production?
Yeah, why?
Well, there's one or two thoughts there. If they're quadrupling their amount of plutonium that they're making in that enriched heavy water, they're either going to double or triple their supply because they know that war is going to ensue, or I believe that nuclear war is going to break out. I'm just joking. I don't know why. I don't have a second reason why. I mean, I don't think anybody wants a nuclear war or a nuclear type of activity, especially in the region and especially from Iran. They would knock dust from Iran if that happened. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number two, the adoption of the supplementary budget in June. So the budget committee adopts the supplementary budget at the end of June. For the current year, after June, to promote a reality of the infrastructure in the provinces. Because they've had such a surplus in oil, they've got to come up with a new way to, I believe, spend that money, hide that money, do something with that money, because it is going to be under scrutiny. Because of transparency, they had to develop a secondary budget. That's going to affect the end of June. At the end of June, we have President Trump's peace talks, peace summit. Peace. And I will tell you guys about that too, good and bad.
Peace in the Middle East?
It's not looking like it. And Iran's not going to be mentioned in that peace summit, and they are honking mad about that, right? Okay, now the parliamentary move to raise the price of the dinar and maintain stability. It's a rehash from Tuesday night. But the rehash was important because why would they redo this? They talk about raising the prices of the value of the dinar. They talk about repricing it, and they talk about to fight inflationary measures. The commission is determined to make these changes during the next phase, which is this phase, and not to allow traditional measures are not appropriate at the moment. Now, the referendum was mandated by Article 140 Constitution of Iraq. Article 140 is, okay, now this came from JJ. Shout out to JJ on Twitter. She sent me this. She said the referendum was mandated by Article 140 of the Constitution of Iraq. The Article 140 required that before the referendum, measures had to be taken to reverse the Arabization policy employed by Saddam Hussein administration during the Al-Anfal campaign. Thousands of Kurds returned to Kirkuk following the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The referendum was decided whether enough had returned for the area to be considered Kurdish. Kurdish resentment over the government failure to implement Article 140 was one of the reasons for the 2017 Iraqi Kurdistan independence referendum, which posed the question, do you want the Kurdistan region and the Kurdistani areas outside the region become an independent state? Now, we know that part of the whole deal, for the whole reevaluation, they have to enact Article 140. That's part of it. Like, that's you guys, if you want to know the basic RI 101, Article 140 is part of that. Like, you got to see that happen. You got to see that dealt with. You got to see that come to some type of resolution, just like the Kuwaiti payments, just like a lot of other things. It's super important for that to happen. Article 140 is a must. It's not a want, it's a must.
What else is a must?
We've gone over this a million times. You've got to have an interior ministry. You've got to have an interior defense. Okay. You've got to accept Article 8. I used to say they had to touch that money from the Kuwait Donor Conference, but I don't believe that anymore. Now I believe they have to amend the investment law They have to amend the financial management law to attract investment opportunities and make it fair for use.
Financial management law. What was the other one?
And the investment law. And they have to, I don't know.
Do the lower denoms have it?
Lower denominations, I'd like to see that come out. They don't have to come out.
They don't have to.
No, they don't have to come out, but I'd love to see the lower denominations come out, especially since the news we got today. Okay. We know that today, you lost it.
Yeah, it's okay.
You can use mine. You can share mine.
Okay, but you need to read the news. Go ahead.
I can read it from here if you just don't flip too much back and forth.
Go ahead. You can have
Okay.
it. I got my phone.
You want my phone?
I got my phone.
Okay. The financial management law was its first reading today, and the budgetary law was read today. Now, that should be a huge kaboom to most people. The first reading of the financial management law. Now, remember, that's the law in which it opens up investment in Iraq, and it also allows them to change the mechanism of the Iraqi dinar. So remember before I told you about Article 140. That was also the news today.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back and forth for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, you could use it until I have to take a phone call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the financial management law got read today, and it went over the terms of the financial management law. So I'm not going to read all of them because I do believe that we've already talked about it 100 million times. But I did get a thing from one of our super patrons out there who sent me this. And I was like, man, are you guys sure? It said the Bank of Iraq operates in accordance with the long-term strategic plan for 2021. That's from 2018 to 2021, and plays a crucial and significant role in the reconstruction and sustained growth of Iraq in 2021. Its success is directly linked to the stability and the prosperity of the country and has a strong impact on the Iraqi society. So thank you to Ms. Bibi. She went ahead and I looked it up and she printed out. Can you see that okay?
It's the Republic of Iraq, the Ministry of Planning.
Yep.
The National Development Plan for 2018 to 2022.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Bibi, for that articulate set of instructions. Now, if you look through it, what?
I'm just laughing at what you just said.
If you go to 2.3 of that plan, the strategic objective of the plan, it says, number one, establishing the foundation of good governance. That means that was that article that I posted on Twitter that talked about the UN that said the Iraqis got to get past this whole political block system of this person takes this and this person takes that, and these guys get this because of that. They've got to practice good governance. That means that if you're a team, one person and you guys may not agree, but you got to get these guys in place because it's costly and it's wastefulness. For every day that there's no person in those cabinetry roles, it's a waste of a day. You see what I'm saying? That's number one, good governance. So they're working on that. I'm not saying that's complete. But number two, achieving economic reform in all financial, monetary, banking, and commercial dimensions. So who is fighting for the reforms every day that we talk about it? Sadr. So you guys got to start to kind of think about this in terms of things that you can understand. Sadr is fighting for the returns of the economic reforms every day. He wants to see those reforms. That is part of Iraq, okay? The reforms. Number two, the communities affected by displaced crisis and the loss of human security. What is that talking about? Article 140. I just read that to you guys. So providing requirements of the enabling environment for investment in all forms and enhancing the role of the private sector. What is that? That's the investment law. So do you guys see everything that's in the news is in the strategic plan, whether it be from aviation.
And you were reading from page 12. Huh?
I'm reading from page 12. I'm not scripting this. Everything that's a part of the news that we read to you guys day to day is in this strategic plan. Okay, so it's no secret what they're doing. It's a roadmap to the return to the international stage. I can't stress that enough. You can make up, I can sit here and tell you guys, I talk to aliens and I find that, you know, Daisy tells me some super intel based upon doggy information in the Middle East. But the truth of the matter is, it's all written out for you in government documentation that you can find every day. And if you take that with coordination of what's happening in the news, you can actually start to figure out what's happening in Iraq, not by accident, but by telltale resort. Because they tell you, these are what has to happen, okay?
Right.
Now, that's a huge bomb. So again, when Pempe told you guys about the SBA and the IMF agreements and all this other stuff, and we went over that, that was a tell. Now they're going back and telling you if they follow the strategic agreement, that's a tell. You see what I'm saying? So there's no hidden agenda. There's no secrecy to this. Okay? When it's going to happen is when these things are fulfilled to their specification. It doesn't matter what my feeling is, or this other YouTuber, or this other guy from Patreon, or this other person that, you know what I mean, talks about, well, if the China agreement's done, then it's done. There's nowhere in here that says anything about that, because that wasn't listed in here from 2017 when they made this agreement. You see what I'm saying? So don't believe the hype. Don't buy into BS. Buy into what you know. They've told you right here. This is what they know, okay? Now, increasing the real per capita income. They know poverty is too low. They've got to raise it. They've got to activate the private sector, which is going to stimulate the economic power of the unemployment, because companies that come in have to hire 50% Iraqi. That's how they're going to put the country back to work, okay? Now, they've already talked about raising the economic growth rate in line with the Iraqis' economic and potential requirements. They know that their GDP needs to be higher than what it is. They're going to stimulate that, what I told you guys. Human security possibilities for the poorest and vulnerable groups. We talked about that. Uprising, sustainable human development, basic human necessities, basic human things like shelter, electricity, even the internet's in some ways a basic human necessity. Laying the foundation for a decentralized spatial development. Nobody wants to be pegged to anything. Being pegged to the dollar is a bad thing. The alignment between the general development framework and the urban structures based on the foundations of urban planning and spatial comparative advantages. They've got to take care of housing and some other things, okay? Now, this also talks about the oil revenues and what needs to happen with that. They talk about achieving a 7% growth rate. That growth rate is a 6.1 growth rate in oil and not oil revenues. Commodity distribution and service. The GDP needs to rise. They talk about that. Go ahead, babe.
Sam wants to know. He said they were saying that June the dinar will RV. What do you think?
They never said in June they wanted it to RV. Now Sam's taking out.
They're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay, they are saying, meaning
saying.
that someone took a quote from Mahdi and saying that certain things were to happen by June. But more so, they're taking out of context what Sauter said. Sauter said by June that he wanted to have the government seated. Now, I'm not telling you by June that they have to have an RV. Okay, what I'm telling you is that by June 25th, there's supposed to be a peace conference. Okay, I'm telling you by May 30th, the Arab peace conference is supposed to go in. I'm telling you that the Arab NATO is going in to effect now, and they're trying to get people rallied around a peace conference. But in nowhere, especially in this piece of documentation that I have, or what I've read or said, that there's going to be a reevaluation in the month of June. All I'm saying is if these things line up the way they're supposed to, you could see a reevaluation in June. Okay? Halabusi, the American Iran. Now, Halabusi basically made a plea to America and said, hey, look, he'll put together some type of visitation for Iran and for America to have some type of talks. America's already done that. And they've said, look, we'll talk to you. They've opened up their lines. They gave their phone number to the Swiss nationalists, and they told them to call them and said, hey, look, you guys want to talk? Call. Iran has failed to call. They're not going to call, y'all. Let me tell you why they're not going to call. Because they're prideful. And whenever you get your pride hurt, It's going to take a lot more than just the whole thing of doing what's right to make you call. Their country is in shambles. Their government is in crap. Their economics is in crap. There's protest every day. It's only a matter of time before they either figure out that they're going to get a coup or they've got to come to the negotiating table. There's no secret to that. It's not like Iran sitting back saying, well, everything's perfect. Our economy's great. We've got a thriving, workforce. That none of that is true. They're in shambles. They're fighting every day for survival. That survival could get lessened a whole bunch if someone simply picked the phone and said, we're going to stop our nuclear program the way it sits right now. We're not going to double our enriched plutonium. Even if they hid it and lied, but if they went to the negotiating table, their economy and everything would get better.
Babe was saying that Sauder is calling for protests, was calling for protests on Friday.
Because of the economic reforms. Of course, he is. Listen, business doesn't stop in Iraq because of Iran. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And Iran has already told everybody that there's not going to be a confusion of state. They're not going to be able to use Iran as a launching pad for Iraq if there's a war. Okay? So Sauder, of course, is ticked off. Mohandi's dropped the ball. He hasn't fulfilled his government. The one thing that he's forgotten is the bipartisan part. That's the same thing that really gets me down about our government. It's not a dictatorship. It's not that I bark and you lead. It's coming to some type of an agreement and going forward. You see what I'm saying? You got to get along to get along. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And that doesn't happen in Iraq. It doesn't happen in America. But if you guys are following the election process all over the world, populists are gaining huge strides, meaning that the globalist movement is dying. Nobody likes the super liberal agenda of open borders. And I'm not a person that's an open border person. I'm a nationalist. I'm a person that believes in my country first. Let's take care of my home and my wife and my kid, my dog, and let me take care of the world second, right? Because these are the people I got to live around, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's the same thing with being a populist. They believe in country first and everybody else second. So all over the world, populists are taking over. I was listening to this podcast today because I don't listen to YouTubers. I listen to people like BBC, and I'm listening to these really super smart people out of Europe talking about, Theresa May being exited. People are tired of their borders being vulnerable. They're tired of being exposed. They're tired of not having work. They're tired of their currency being crap. They're tired of not having good trade. They're tired of not having manufacturing. And they want all that stuff taken out of these Asiatic places, brought back to America. I mean, not back to America, but back to their homesteads, whether it be America or Britain or wherever, and then have a fighting chance of survival. Okay? And that's just not happening here. It's happening everywhere. Okay.
Babe says, and Iraq will get their share of 15% on taxes on dividends plus 35% if the oil related, if it is oil related, and an additional tax by the Kurdistan
region,
says Deloitte.
There you go. Babe's on fire. Somebody hit the bomb for Babe. Boom. Now, the United Nations representation paints a bleak picture. Now, it wasn't a bleak picture. What it was the secretary, the UN special representative for Iraq, basically told it how it was. They said, yes, in order for democracy to truly take a hold, it needs time. They've had only basically 15 years. I've told you guys that. Now, there's a lot of concessions that need to take place, especially in, wait a minute, what's this?
What's wrong?
Concessions that take place.
iTunes needs your attention.
Oh, let's do this. Now, they say at this slow rate, the confident pace, the chairman vice president, Rauch Parliamentary, said, I am pleased to inform you that the important progress made recently with regards to the KRG negotiation. I am pleased to inform you with the important progress made recently. Basically, the KRG government agreed was signed on May 5th to avoid further problems. That's what they're saying about Mahdi. They need to come to some type of bipartisan agreement. Now, him agreeing that corruption is the worst thing that ever happened is great. Him starting the anti-corruption committee is great. Him prosecuting the bad people are great, but they haven't gotten the basic principles of democracy yet when we start to talk about bipartisanism, meaning that the blocks have to get along, not get along, but come to consensus. Someone's got to yield a little bit, someone's got to demand a little bit more. They've got to come to some type of an agreement. That hasn't happened. The economy, it has an enormous oil potential that has not been explored yet. Meaning that what they're doing in oil and gas is the basics. They need to exploit their natural. They need to exploit how they're capturing it, the efficiency of it, putting their people to work in it. They haven't done all of these things. Now, it doesn't mean that this is setting us off, but these are things that the United Nations is saying. These are things that can help their country.
Sammy says, weren't they supposed to sign some kind of agreement tomorrow?
We already talked about that. They voted today on the financial management bill. They also voted today on the federal budget law.
And then John says, if they don't, RB, do they think they will be used as a war zone?
They can't be used as a war zone because of a political act they signed with America. And I forget the name of that act. I can look it up. But they can't be used as a jump-off pad for war against Iran. It's just it's something they call it something. I don't know the name of it, but you can't use Iraq like that. No. Barzani, in an interview with the UN representative on the readiness of the whole province and work closely with the Iraqi government through the next cabinet to normalize the security situation, disputed areas. So Barzani has basically went to the UN and said they need to have a special council. I told you this the other day about Article 140. The talk about Article 140 of the Iraqi Constitution is news that is a reality that is imposed on the ground and cannot be ignored by any party and disclaimed in any way. It is a constitutional article, meaning that it's not a want, it's a right. It's kind of like your Second Amendment right, your First Amendment right. It's not a want. They've got to work that out. So when you talk about a revaluation, that has to happen. Does that make sense? It's not a want. It's not like, well, if we get around to it, we'll do it. To see a revaluation, that must happen, okay? Okay. They're calling for the Article 23 of the budget in soft lending. So remember, they got all of the banking online, which is part of the agreement to sophisticate their banking system. And this is one thing that I wanted to talk about. I made a huge mistake. The other day, I told you guys that they're going to accept blockchain technology in the Middle East as a form of inclusion, banking inclusion to get the younger people on board. That is absolutely true. But more so that the reason why they've got to accept blockchain technology for us is because of payments and receivables. If blockchain, which is already utilized in already 77 banks, especially almost all the central banks in the world, and like your super banks like JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they all use blockchain technology to satisfy payments and to send money, to do wire transfers. They don't do a wire transfer. They do, but they don't do it the same way. Go ahead.
So I don't think they'll have their own cryptocurrency. I think they're going to use what's already in place, such as XLM or XRP. Just my opinion. And
I'm not arguing that. The whole point of this is not the currency end of it. It's the blockchain technology end of it. So that's why when people tell you that when they go to the bank and they turn their currency in, and it's going to take 2 weeks to get their answer, it's not true. If they have a De La Rue machine and they're using blockchain, they exchange their currency within seconds. They should get their money in the bank. Okay, that is a huge milestone because that's why they're talking about using blockchain. They are going to one day adopt the digital currency end of it, but however, the blockchain technology end of it, as far as real estate is concerned, and the medical field is concerned, that's the part that they're trying to fight for and get done now. Okay. Now, said during a press conference in the House of Representatives, it is no secret that one of the importance of promoting the national product and provide all the potential for the development of the local market. Therefore, I call on the House of Representatives to instruct the Minister of Agriculture to activate Article 23 of the budget law on the consensual lending fund, its importance in improving production and promote local product and restoring prosperity to the local agricultural sector. Now they're talking about loans. Now Whenever you talk about loans, you got to talk about Sharia law. Sharia law, basically, remember I read those laws off, and I kept saying, I don't see it, I don't see it. Got my butt handed to me by a couple people that was from the Muslim faith that said you shouldn't talk about the interpretation of it. You should talk about exactly what the meaning of it is. We talked about that last time, that Sharia law was basically when you're talking about the loaning aspect of it as far as interest is concerned, that they don't pay a set interest rate, but that company sets an amount that they're going to profit share with the bank. So therefore, it's not interest, it's a partnership. Okay? That's what Sharia law means. And what she's saying is they want to go ahead and act that right now. That's a huge bomb for you guys. If you didn't realize it, they're calling on these things to happen because these are the things that are instructional inside of this growth that they had to get done before they can revalue their currency. See what I'm saying? Now,
John says the citizens of Iraq need to surround Parliament and don't let them leave until Article 140 is passed and the citizens receive their money.
well, and that's why another reason why that Mahani's big pledge was to take down the green zone. There shouldn't be a green zone. So they didn't have to do that anymore. You see what I'm saying? That they were open, it was free public. But because they haven't achieved that, yeah, they do. They need to stand up and say, look, you all need to get along. Right. Forget your sect. Forget your block getting the money. Forget you getting the credit. You need to go ahead and find some bipartisanship. That's the problem with the Republicans and Democrats. They can't agree on crap. That's why crap never gets done. If you're constantly fighting, you're never working towards getting anything done. Okay? Now, there's a credible intelligence that suggests that there are threats against American forces. Now, I told you guys about that because of the emergency signature that Mr. Jim DeMint told us about that happened in Iraq, right? Because of that, that's why they signed that executive order. It said, I spent some years in Baghdad during much more volatile times when 40 to 50 rockets a day were coming into the green zone. That's why the green zone opening up is symbolic because it's always been considered war-torn. We put up with the Iranian aggression for far too long, and we've noted that highlighting the fact that during the operations of Iraqi freedom, Iran was responsible for the death of 603 soldiers. Everybody's sick of Iran and their hand in terrorism and their funding of terrorism in the region, and they're tired of it, and you know what? It's time for things to come to a head, okay? Here is my next bomb, and since I don't have my phone or my things to do my little sound effects, instructions, this is why I put it in the thumbnail, and you guys will see it later on. The replacement of banknotes, but more importantly, to all banks, approved instructions changed for circulation and replacement of banknotes. We talked about, I didn't tell you guys about that, but they're asking for that. Jordan may be the weakest link in the Trump peace initiative. One person so far has signed up for the peace plan in Iran. Now, you got to understand this about Iran. Iran is excluded from the peace plan. That's the part that kills me, that I screwed up when I told you guys last time. I made a mistake. Remember, I said, well, they've got to have peace in the region when they go to the table. No, they don't. They've just got to get the other people in the region on board at that time for what's going on for that to happen. You see what I'm saying? So the peace doesn't have to happen in Iran, but they're going to have some type of peace. They want to have a peace plan in place because Iran's excluded from that. They're isolating Iran even more, okay? The Middle East peace plan, they say it's doomed. The reason why it's not doomed, I'm not saying that, is because at the end of the talks, you've got to give people a reason to buy. Just because it's economically motivated by these guys doesn't make it like everybody's buying into money. There's a lot of political things that are going into the peace talks. There's a lot of territorial problems that are going into the peace talks. There's lots of rites of passage. It's even partially biblical about Babylon and Israel and, you know, what's going to be the capital of this and where we get displaced from. You see what I'm saying? It's a lot more going on than just here, we're going to throw some money at you guys. And a lot of people think that they're trading their Arab sovereignty for money. You see what I'm saying? And that's not what they're about. This goes way deeper than that. So upon economic and not based upon other struggles are going on in the region. Remember, not everything is about money, and think that this approach, even though being introduced in stages, kind of miscalculated on the Trump portion of it, because this was only stage one. This to me was what you call your reason to buy. They tried to see if that was the motivation for them to want to have peace, was going to be some type of economic evaluation. It really wasn't. You see what I'm saying? It was kind of like a feeler out there. They put it out there to see if this was going to kind of hit the boat. Now, economic progress can only be achieved with a solid economic vision and if the core political issues are resolved. Now, Kushner said that himself. So we look forward to presenting our vision on the way to bridge the core political issues very soon. That, to me, is the key to the whole peace plan. We know that money's not the singular motivator for the region. So the singular motivation for the region is the political issues and that they're resolved. Now, how you know this happens, because there was an agenda here. But we talked about the financial bill. I'll come back to that. But what happened in 2001, it was called the Taba Summit. And there were talks between Israel and Palestine Authority. It was held from 21st to the 27th of January, okay? And this was held by the Clinton administration. Now, love or hate the Clintons, I don't give a crap right now. The idea is at this time, it was held at Camp David, a summit between Prime Minister Israel Ehud Barak and Palestine Yasser Arafat, and against the backdrop of the Second Intifada that commenced. The parties had first negotiated at a Bowling Air Force Base in Washington, hosted by President Bill Clinton from December 19th to 23rd. They dealt with several issues. Now, these are the issues, in my opinion, that have not been dealt with, and this is why you're not seeing a large number of these Arab nations and the Palestinian nations coming to the table, okay? What they're basically talking about deep and practical talks with the aim of reach a permanent and stable agreement between the two parties. Given the circumstances and time constraints, it proved impossible to reach an understanding on all issues, despite the substantial progress that was achieved in each of the issues discussed. Now, in the issues discussed, what happened was Israel wanted no right of Palestine refugees to return to inside the state of Israel, the Palestinian sovereignty over the temple, Mount Haran al-Sharif. That is a huge, huge obstacle for Palestine-Israeli type of agreement, some type of conclusion to this, is this temple. Big settlement blocks containing 80% Jewish residents of the West Bank of Gaza, and it will be under Israeli sovereignty, okay? Now, on the Muratano paper, although the paper has no official status, it has been acknowledged as being a relatively fair description of the outcome of the negotiations. On the permanent status issues of Taba, in described observed positions on the permanent status issues, territory, Jerusalem, refugees, and security, in order to find ways to come to joint positions. At the same time, shows that there are serious gaps and differences between the two sides. Now, it's much more about territory. It's much more about Jerusalem. It's much more about the refugees than it is about money. And that's the reason to buy that the Trump administration is going to have to put forward in order for these big-time Palestine people and to get these Arab countries, even though Israel is a big-time supporter of the Trump administration, they're not going to come to the table unless these things are dealt with, okay? Mm-hmm. So let's not get super excited about hearing about a peace talk just because Trump's throwing it, that's going to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just means that they're trying to get it done. But until they deal with some of the issues that haven't been dealt with since all the way back in 2003. Now, some of you guys go back to 2003 when you first got your dinar, right? Mm-hmm. So think about this. When Kuwait finally had settled out in their basic thing, when Clinton was riding his high, he tried to put forth a peace conference. It failed. It came closer than any other peace conference in the history of peace conferences had ever come in the Middle East, they said. But because of these things, they couldn't get it done. If it was my opinion, economically, strategically, I would have took a little bit about everything, kind of like the way I find the news, and said, look, we want all these things to happen. Let's deal with that temple. Let's deal with the refugees. Let's deal with sovereignty. Let's deal with the Gaza Strip. Let's deal with these things and make it fair and give it security to everybody. And that will bring people to the table. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Until those things are dealt with, you will have no peace in the Middle East. But the main thing is it's got Iran talking. Iran's basically saying, we're a little nervous here. You see what I'm saying? We're not included in this. Iran is concerned about these peace talks because it's more so Iran's Tasnim News issued a special report on Wednesday highlighted the U.S. decision to hold a conference in Manama, Bahrain on June 25th to the 26th aimed at supporting the Palestinians. According to the Iranian media analyst, the meeting is actually a form of anti-Palestine plot. The discussion in Iranian media symbolizes wider concern in Tehran over the U.S. push for an Israeli-Palestine agreement working closely with the Gulf Arab states. Tassin termed the Bahrain event a form of Arab betrayal and that the U.S. was trying to get Ridwa to use petrodollars to sell Palestine. The articles highlighted the weakness of Bahrain, Sunni monarchy, and that the Saudi Arabia is the main supporter of Bahrain. Now, it reports that the U.S. is seeking an end to Palestine refugees issues and weaken the Palestine Authority in the Mahmoud Abbas. The meeting presents the deceptive image of peace throughout prosperity. Notes it claims that the Saudi government is plotting against the Haram Sharif, the Temple Mount. Remember I told you about the temple? And is willing to give up demands for Israeli to end its occupation of Jerusalem. Trump is, now that's a big part of it. A big part of everything that's going on right now is Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as being the capital. I don't know if that's going to have to change. I don't think it can because of its recognition, but they're going to have to amend the way they view that a little bit so that everybody feels kind of comfortable with the title war. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. In proceeding along two avenues, the political and economic sphere, the analysis claims it notes that Trump ended support of the UNRWA and recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. The Manamon summit shows that the U.S. Zionists and Arab regimes believe that they can, through economic prosperity for the Palestinians, get them to give up their debt. That is why it's failing so far, okay? Now, the last bomb drop that I have for you guys today, if you haven't already heard, the Central Bank of Iraq would like to inform all banks that it is continuing to provide them with small categories of Iraqi currency by withdrawing funds from the central bank's current balances. It explains that in an event of query or feedback, banks can communicate with the follow-up compliance department, which I did right. If you guys are part of the Telegram group or if you're part of the Twitter secret group, I actually wrote to .iss@cbiraq.info about what smaller category notes meant. I reached out to a friend in Iraq. He said he didn't know anything about it. He thought all the lower denominations were out. I told him and informed him that there was more actual currency values that could be dropped as far as the $100 dinar, the $50 dinar, the 25, the 10, the 5, the dollar, all those things could be dropped. And he said he had no clue about it, but would check into it. Now, the banks are calling for damaged notes to come back in. They also sold off those old Saddam Hussein notes. Now, remember what happened when those people counterfeited those notes that I told you guys about a while ago? They didn't counterfeit notes that they knew were coming out. They counterfeited old notes they knew that they had. Mm-hmm. So now that the central bank is going through kind of like they're selling off all those old notes, those Saddam notes and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying?
Excuse me, iTunes needs your attention.
I hear you, iTunes.
That's because I plugged your phone.
Okay. Woo! So understand that, again, the CBI is telling everybody that lower notes are coming out. They did the same thing with the $250, the $50, and the $1,000 note. So it's kind of a huge ordeal. People are speculating big time when those notes are coming out. When you take in conjunction that recently they had those pictures of the ATMs that had come out, those MasterCard ATMs, I think it's kind of noteworthy that someone has to say that, yes, something has to give. Now, they're not going to come out and tell you these are the notes that have to come out, but like I told Ms. BB earlier, she was kind of speculative on what notes had to be coming out. Remember, they're not really concerned so much about the notes that were signed by a lock. That's why they're telling everybody, look at these notes, are still good. You see what I'm saying? They're just letting everybody know that these notes are still okay. Okay? Now, Woo! I have gotten through the news. I know I went a little bit later, so I'll go about 10 minutes later than I usually do. And the reason why I'll do that is because it took us 10 minutes to get started. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any things that are going on inside your mind that didn't make sense in those readings or what I said? You've got to understand that inside of this Republic Ministry of Planning, it goes over everything.
I posted that too.
Okay.
And I put the link in the. I put the link out there for everybody, so please
No
pay
more,
attention to the
right.
link.
There's no more secret with it. It talks about institutional challenges, what needs to happen. It talks about aviation. It talks about maritime. It talks about the public debt, the private debt, all the things that you guys see in the papers and print, what they're achieving. This is what's inside of this document. So no guru bullshit. This is absolute truth. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is touch the link and look at it. You can read it for yourself. I'm not trying to tell you what's going on. I'm just trying to tell you what's going on. Jason. Hello? Hello?
Hey, Mr. Brando.
Hey, Jason. What's going on, my friend?
Nothing but big smiles.
Man, what was it specifically that got you up and out of the gym to call me? If you guys don't know this about Jason, he is Adonis. He is massively built. This guy is built like Arnold Schwarzenegger's like older brother. You see what I'm saying? He would beat up Arnold Schwarzenegger. He'd beat his ass. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Sorry about the cussing. But he would. Go ahead, Jason. What's got you smiling today?
Oh, my goodness. I'm just smiling and just listening to everything you're saying, and I'm hoping everybody's paying attention to exactly what you're saying, because everything you read is either already done and is in the motion or is about to happen. You just validated everything that we've actually gone out to make sure that everybody, in chat or on your channel is paying attention and is ready for all of it.
And that's
what.
Go ahead, man. You can do your thing. And that's why I tell you guys, it's no secret to what they're doing. They tell you what they're going to do. You just got to dig a little deeper to find out why they're doing what they're doing. You've got to look at these agreements. And that's why when these old-time Dinarians tell me it ain't going to happen because of this or it ain't going to be happen because of that, that's when I tell them basically the finger, kiss it to the middle. They've already told you why it's going to happen and how they're doing it and how they're achieving it through the print. That's their avenue. Now, by law, they have to print these banking things and these laws. They've got to put those in print in the Gazette and other means because that's their law. They've got to tell the citizens. That's why they're telling. That's why the stuff about banking and stuff is in the Gazette and these other places. They have to tell the citizens what they're doing by print. It's kind of like don't show us, tell us, and put in writing. That's why they do that. Okay.
Correct. All of those things need to be in place because otherwise, everything that they're about to do for the RI not go forward. Everything you just said is exactly what they did, and it's law. It is in. So people get ready, pay attention to what Mr. Brando's saying and everybody else in the Kangaguru crew because it is happening.
And you talk about, I'll give you this. Jason, what time is it in Guam right now?
It's roughly about 10-something in the morning.
Okay.
Almost 11.
Jason, I will say this because when I'm not in there, Jason's in there or Bethany's in there, Woke's in there, Link's in there, Spaz is in there. These guys get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and start posting news. If you're not a part of the crew, you need to get a part of the crew because they knew all of this stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning. Matter of fact, Ms. Bibi, would you please tell the crew what you told me this morning at 7 o'clock on my only day off this week?
Your iPad started going off at 5 a.m. this morning because I get up at 4:45 and it just chime. And I'm like, okay, I ignored it. I left the house and then somebody reached out to me.
Bethany?
Yeah.
Wake Mr. Brando up.
Like, there's some really big news out there. And I just kind of say, well, he's tired right now.
He's asleep.
Yeah.
And what do they say? Get his big butt up.
They ain't say all that.
They said it. Get his big butt up and get on here.
That's dope.
And Jason usually goes to bed about 11 or 12 my time?
Yeah.
Well, here goes your cousin. Let me get your cousin on the phone because he obviously feels neglected. Hold on here. Let me get your cousin, Uncle Luke, on the phone. Hang on here. If you two don't stop, I already knew that was you. Hold on. Let me get you guys together. Okay, I got you guys together. Okay.
Okay, hey, real quick, just one time for the people in the chat room. Give me 2 seconds. You ready? Listen to this.
Go ahead.
Don't laugh. Don't know what it means. Ready? Here we go. You know what that is?
Yes, PM Dawn.
Don't give me a copyright strike.
Anyways, I was saying, I said, man, look at Mr. B with them cross colors. I'm not sure if it's PM
Oh, that's what they're referring to. Oh,
I was like, yeah, he's looking pretty smooth there with them cross colors.
Hell no, you know it's polo.
that's funny.
Y'all are whack. Oh, it's all polo, baby.
Didn't just go polo.
Hold on. I'm gonna show y'all something. I'm old school. Hold on. You see that? Look at that. Look on my chest. You know it's polo.
No, you know what's so funny is you don't even have the little polo symbol that they got nowadays. You got that
big old fat one. Yes, a throwback.
The huge one. The big polo, man. Every time I see that, I love that. I'm like, oh my God.
It almost looks like cross colors.
No, that's what I'm talking about, cross colors. Now, here's the funny thing. I'm going to tell a quick story. I went to Beverly Hills, right? And Polo has their own store. I went to go to the bathroom in there. Their sinks are literally made of gold. I was like, what the hell is this? And they got a guy in there watching to make sure that you don't take anything out of there. I was like, is this real? He goes, yes. It's ridiculous. I go, it's way ridiculous. But yeah, they have 24 karat gold damn sinks in there, man. I thought it was crazy.
I'll make you guys laugh. When I was young, the reason why I wear so much polo is my dad wore polo, and I thought it was really cool. And so Ms. B will tell you, 90% of my clothes are polo or sports related or t-shirts. I'm either a hippie or a prep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Old school prep. There you go. You
Yeah.
just hit it right on the money.
I should do this. Hold on, let me do this. I got my collar turned up.
You know what I was gonna say because there's a slight delay on the video, but I can almost guess you flipped the collar up as well.
I did. I flipped my collar up.
Hey, real quick, Mr. B, look, touch on it without touching on it real quick. Just tell everybody that we did read some good news yesterday about the dung.
Yep.
It's kind of teetering. It's teetering, but there was some really good news about the dung.
And oh, hey, and what you told me to research today about Brexit, what was that guy's name? The populist guy?
Ooh, Nigel Farage.
Oh, if you guys aren't out there reading about Nigel Farage and Brexit, I'm not saying it has to happen for what we're doing to happen, but it is.
We want it to happen.
We want it to, big time. And he is
really
kicking butt.
Because, he partnered up with Theresa May and got her elected with the promise of Brexit. She failed because she gave in to Obama and the globalists and then Trump. And how she was like, oh no, because this guy is breaking up the globalists everywhere.
Yeah.
People don't, if you're not paying attention to geopolitics, what you'll notice is that populist leaders are being voted into office all around the world.
It's true.
And Theresa May said the greatest thing. She was lecturing people about them getting in her way of making Brexit happen. Mm-hmm. And then she said, this is what she said, all the liberal Democrats need to is look around the world to see that people are rejecting you and your policies. I was like, oh my God, dude, what a great statement. It's true. It is. They're being rejected everywhere. And people think this fight is just happening here in the United States. It's not. Just so you know, the guy in Australia is a populist and he won. You know what they said? Here's what the news said about him. Oh, a racist conservative won. Gee, does that sound familiar? Oh, Russia helped him win the election. I was like, gee, does that sound familiar? That's what they do to all populist conservative leaders who win. They call them racist. They say that Russia helped them win, so it's not just here in the United States. There's Black Lives Matter in Britain. I'm not even kidding you. Now, keep in mind, the police don't carry guns. So what the hell are you protesting over there? You want to hear what they said they were using? The weather. They were saying that they were controlling, I'm not even kidding you, they were controlling the weather to target minorities over there. I'm trying not to laugh because they're so serious about it. It's not even funny. They're like, white racist populist conservatives are using weather to target minorities. I was like, what the hell?
Can I make you laugh? I didn't send this documentation to Pempe on purpose about the Republic of Ministry of Planning, but do you know what they talk about in here? Climate change, and how climate change is part of the governance it's going to take over as part of either the workforce or trade or whatever. But they talk about climate change. So that is so unique that you mentioned that. So
the funny thing, now I'm old enough to remember that in 1971, they tried to scare the bejesus of us. I'm talking about this so-called, they started way back then on this whole global man-made climate change. They told everybody in 71 we were getting ready to move into this ice age, and they scared the sheesh out of everybody, right?
Right.
Well, it didn't happen within the couple years that they said. Then they're like, yes, we're going to start having these ice caps are going to grow, they said. And instead, what happened, they started shrinking. And then all of a sudden they came back and they said, global warming. I was like, wait, you just went from ice age to global warming. So in the 80s and the 90s, they were pitching that whole global warming thing. And then in the early 2000s, remember Al Gore said, East and West Coast are going to be flooded within a couple of years. And here we are. And now they're smart. They don't call it ice age. They don't call it global warming no more because they can't keep up with it. They're like, climate change. Damn it, just call climate change. I'm like, oh my God.
Now, one more thing that has to happen, and I don't know if it has to happen before or after or during. At some point, the auctions must say thank you for that. That's the other thing that we got to see. We've got to see a real push for the auctions to stop.
Auctions need to stop.
Auctions got to stop. The auctions are the avenue of stealing, not just from the corrupt politicians, but from the Iran militias and all that crap. It funds money to Iran, and that's what keeps the subsidy going for the Iran terrorist movement and its arms all throughout the region. If those auctions stop, now this is old hat. You guys already know that. But if the auctions stop, a lot of good things will happen. Now,
for you people who are crossing your fingers about the gun, what you're praying for right now is this: you need the China agreement not to happen. You need Trump to put on those additional tariffs, and you need to have Trump go over and redo the agreements with both India and Vietnam. And those are, just for the record, those are already happening. So I think we're a lot closer, in my opinion, to the dung than we are the dinar. What do you think, Mr. B?
But also,
you know,
he also officially blacklisted the Yahweh company or Yahweh.
Yeah, Yahweh got blacklisted. Good point, Jason. Good point, Jason. Now, if everybody doesn't know this about Yahweh, the guy that started the company is kind of like the Steve Jobs of the East. I watched a couple videos about him today. The guy is super duper smart. The reason why Yahweh is under such scrutiny is the guy that started the company used to work for, I believe, what you'd call like the Chinese intelligence agency or Chinese like army or something. Specialty was technology and infrastructure. He built his organization. It's basically 100.
Put your hand over the phone because it sounds like you're mumbling a little bit.
Okay. I'm saying that his organization is basically built. It's a 190,000 person strong business, and he's bringing 5G faster. He says he's 80 months ahead of all technologies in the world. 80 months ahead of all technologies in the world as far as bringing 5G. Now, the thing
is that it's the software that they put in there is got a lot of spyware.
That's the spot.
Pick up on our stuff.
That's the speculation. People like Great Britain have actually devised parts of their military because they're trying to think if they're going to use Hanaway in their military operation. And what they're saying is that they actually got this one guy that he did an interview, and his whole job is to figure out where the spyware is, if it's there in their company. So this guy, this little Asian fellow, he's actually very brilliant. His company's huge. They did $100 billion+ last year in revenue. Some of their clients are the U.S. military, the Great Britain military. This guy is massive. This company's massive.
I don't trust them at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to trust them, it's like trusting Hitler, I think, kind of. You know?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Jason, what were you saying?
Don't forget, because I'm also monitoring the GDP from Vietnam. Remember, whatever China gets affected, Vietnam gets affected big time.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Me and Mr. Brando been talking about that.
Yeah.
Here's the big kicker: why Vietnam is already ready to pull the trigger is because they built themselves just as high, or not as higher as China, to get on the world stage. Now they're crumbling, and in order to pick that back up, they gotta boost the rate change. And
Right.
everybody's asking.
Well, not just that. If they take themselves to the yen or beyond, and what's happening is every time it loses value, it can't get below 7%. But if it does, then it kills their economy. It forces them to raise the rate.
Okay, hold on, fellas. Hold on, real quick.
So
Hold on, fellas, real quick. Hold
So
on.
real quick, I want to answer a couple of questions in the chat. Remnant 1 was asked saying, don't we need the financial management law? We went over that in the beginning of the video.
It got voted on today.
And so those are one of the must-have things we must have. And then the other thing is, I see this question a lot. Is the currency, because they were talking about the dong, buying the dong, is it uncirculated or circulated? It does not matter. Think about it. If you have $1, $20 bill, you can still turn it in, right? Circulated or uncirculated. So it doesn't matter for the dong if it's circulated or uncirculated.
And no currency. Let me tell you all this. Let me tell you all a secret about circulation. Once it enters the populace, it's circulated. The way that they charge you more money for currency is they made up something a guru bullcrap term was if it's uncirculated. I mean, it left the central bank and went to another central bank and it went to you. There's no such thing as uncirculated notes that are in circulation.
And let me say this real quick.
Here, I just want to comment real quick because on there in the comment section, what
Wait.
the heck, man, said something that's right on the money, and that is Vietnam definitely is the China for China. Because China uses Vietnam to make the products even cheaper than China does.
Yeah.
And they send it back to China.
At one tenth the money.
Trump already knows this.
Hold on,
And
y'all.
The other thing is, if you're paying more than $100 for 2 million dong, you're paying too much.
Yeah, order from
Now,
the bank.
I went in my bank. Now, do you have to have a bank account? Probably so, because you have to order it. They're not going to have the dong there, but there's no fees to order. Well, they have a charge, but basically for 2 million dong, you can go to Chase Bank, pay about $95 for it. So if you're paying like $150 for that's too much.
You gave up $1 million by ordering it.
Yeah, if you're going to get it over at Chocolate, it's about $102. You're just paying for the service fee.
Right. So just go into a bank. You can go into Wells Fargo. You can go into Chase. If you have a bank nearby, go into a bank. Do yourself a favor.
And here's one more thing I want to tell you guys about ordering money. When people ask me, where do you order your currency through? And I tell them Exchange of America for dinar. I told them other places. I'm only going to tell you guys places that I know charges you the cheapest rate. I'm not going to suggest places to you. When people come up with, what about this place? If you've already done your research, then why are you asking? You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to ask me.
Now, look, I paid a little more to go through Exchange America. Only because I like the fact that one, they are registered as official currency dealers, and two, they send these cheesy little authentication. Not that you need them, but just in case I have them. So, and I like dealing to them. But you do pay a nice little penny for a premium to go to them. But that's who I prefer.
I like them too.
The other thing, let me tell you this: if you're going through a bank, if you're going through a currency exchange place in the mall, they're not going to give you a certificate of authentication. You're going to have a receipt. That's your proof. But when I picked up the dinar for the contest that Mr. Brando had, it was circulated dinar, but it wasn't in bad condition. They gave me a receipt, and that was it. Now, when I got the dong, I went inside the bank. I ordered it. They said it'd be 2 days. I'll go back and pick it up. I have my receipt. That's it.
And also remember this about the law of banking. If you buy money from a bank, whether it's through a deposit exchange, and they give you money out of it, if the money isn't good, they'll take it back. You see what I'm saying?
Well, no bank is going to give you bad money.
Nah, they're not. Not on purpose.
Well,
already went through the money to make sure that's legitimate.
Right.
Didn't they send it through a daylight revolution?
Yes, that's my whole point.
Okay, here's the thing, because I know this about the dog because we use this over here in this part of the world.
Okay.
And we use it on this part of the world too. Sorry.
Okay, but also everybody needs to understand the dong is not a currency that was taken out of circulation or old. It is a now currency. Everybody's using it. That's why when you go to the banks or you go to the exchange, you get a receipt because it's just like exchange for the dollar. I mean, you're using a dollar. It's a viable
in-use currency. It's not dead. So that's why you don't need to look for certificate or whatever.
Right.
Hey, 2 words real quick. Sidebar from Miss April, real quick. 2 words. Miss April. Block net. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, here's a side net. I'm going to throw this one out there for all you guys that don't believe in digital currency. Blockchain.
No.
Blocknet is another.
Net.
No. Blockchain. Look up blockchain banking.
Net.
No. Listen to me. Blockchain banking, blockchain medical, blockchain real estate. I wasn't a big believer in.
Now, Blocknet is going to be the new internet that carries all of the blockchains. That's new. I was just watching video after video about Blocknet.
Trump my blockchain, you jerk.
So all of the chains are going to be rerouted onto Blocknet, and they're going to be way faster than they are.
Okay, can I say this to everybody real quick?
You can.
If anybody out there has used Walmart and you've used money to send money Western Union,
You've used our XRP.
you've used XRP, you've used blockchain.
Yes. That's why the rates are so low now.
Right.
It used to be very expensive.
And faster.
Oh, so you watched the video.
No, I didn't. I did my own research. I don't
Okay.
believe in your videos.
No.
I'm just joking.
But this actually it's old news.
well,
Even before my birthday.
I'm old school.
It's $4 to send. There's
I wear
even
polo.
XRP has been, in use, but they're not telling the people.
Now, Walmart also said they're going to raise the prices on their good because of the tariffs. So all you Walmart frequent shoppers out there, find yourself Target, find yourself a Kohl's, find yourself
and hurry up. If you're a Nike fan and you like Jordans, you better hurry up and get them because they are going to go up too.
Oh, hold on.
Okay,
And
look at China. Does a real good job of stealing our technology. If you guys want Nikes really, really cheap, go to tradeatang.com and you can buy real Nikes for like $10-15.
Those are knockoffs.
The Nikes.
Those are knockoffs.
hold on. I'm going to blow both of you guys' mind. They say that one of the next. Hold on. One of the next things that they said about China that could be a big thing for me. I'm an Apple user, and if my Apple people out there, China may shut down Apple and call them a threat to their security. So I'm just telling y'all, if you're an Apple subscriber, because of Hanaway, look out for retaliation to be against people like Apple. Steve Jobs tried to bring the company back to the United States.
They should have never left. They should have never left. Let
Agreed.
me say this. Every company that goes overseas, they swagger jack our technology. They swagger jack everything. I mean, even down to Tiffany's jewelry. Tiffany's tried to do that. They started
Louis Vuitton.
Yes, and that's why V-Chain, I believe in V-Chain. Why? Because they won't be able to counterfeit me.
Okay, now I gotta stop all you guys. I'm not talking cryptocurrencies. I'm not talking your fancy dong.
What you said?
And my dong, long dong.
You kept saying blockchain. What's that?
Blockchain is a technology. It's not a coin. Now,
You talked about XRP. You said
no,
Walmart.
I talked about MoneyGram and Western Union. I didn't talk about XR crap.
And they
Now,
have an agreement with XRP.
Okay, Mr. B.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, because I did hear you, and remember, this is the other one that we cracked. We figured it out. Why they're using the blockchain technology back there.
Tell them, please.
I heard you telling them a little bit about that.
Would you tell them why?
In Iraq, the reason why they're going to be using the blockchain technology as far as banking. And remember, Assistant Secretary of State was actually there, even Mr. Mnuchin.
Yep.
The banking system is going to be using that because, like what Mr. Brando was saying, the wire transfer is going back and forth from the States and back to Baghdad. They're going to move money, and when we're talking about money moving, we're talking about it billions within seconds. Usually, traditionally, it would take weeks for that amount. That's why they're using it. It's not mainly just because of
XRP 4 seconds, XLE 5.
And Jason, tell them this.
Right.
The other reason why they're using it because it's decentralized from any banking system.
Not true.
So hold on. The banking system doesn't use a centralized bank to transfer money. So it's unhackable at this point. It's the safest measure to send money to and fro that there is.
Do you know the difference between XRP and XLM?
No, because I'm not into that. I'm into
So
the
let me tell you
blockchain.
right. I understand that. But hold on a second. Hold on. XRP is centralized. XLM is decentralized. So
yes,
one is different than the other.
Mm-hmm.
So that they still is going to be traceable. It's still going to be all that. XLM is your secret, your privacy, all of that. So that's the difference. And let me say this. Hold on a second. XLM converts into every single currency in the world.
Then I stand corrected, or I sit corrected.
So if you're in Tokyo and you need some bot and you're in Thailand, right? And I send you over XRP, right? It won't convert as quick as XLM.
So if you guys want to know more about blockchain, if you want to know more about the Dong investment, if you guys want to know more about precious metals, if you want to know more about real estate, if you want to know more about investment opportunities, you got to get on Patreon is going over all that. If you want to talk currency, you want to talk investments, 24 hours a day with these nut jobs that I love them. I love you, Woke. I love you, Link. I love you, Jason. I love you, Beth. But these guys want to talk currency and money 24/365. You got to join Patreon. Now, if you don't get mad at me when I don't want to talk about it.
A ton of info I wanted to talk to Mr. April right now about, but go ahead. You're killing me.
You can call me later. I was in a meeting earlier. I couldn't take any calls.
I will set up a live call if you guys want to on Patreon. You guys can talk your crap. But it's going on 20 after 8. Jason's got to get up and go to work.
Dinner's ready.
Dinner's ready for Miss BB, and I got to go to work tomorrow.
Hey, real quick, do me a favor. If somebody find a way to get Jason debt to me, because I want to see about a little workout program, Jason, if that's cool with you. You know what I mean? I need to get my fat ass back. Well, I'm not, but kind of. I need to get back in shape, man. I used to be hella buff and got an injury, and I'm 51 now, so you know, I need to get back in shape. I know somewhere under these fat rolls are what I heard is muscle memory.
In the background, all right. No, the trade deals have not been done in the background. No trade deals have been done. I want to just add with this.
Reach out to Mr. B, and we'll get in contact with one another.
About ISX. Hold on. Miss BB, can you ask about the ISX? Y'all listen. About ISX, the ISX Club, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm an investor.
George is in the chat group right now. He said I earlier.
Okay, listen though. I am not an owner in it. I don't. I'm an investor, just like a common investor.
Right.
Just like Pempe is, just like Jason is, just like all these guys are. I have no control over ISX. That's George.
No, so just direct your questions to
George.
To the Wise IQD chat.
Yeah, go to Wise IQD chat, right?
Yeah. On their website.
Right, to their website. These guys are doing what they're doing. I don't deal with that, right?
I'm just smart enough to say, hey, take my money.
Yeah.
Because I agree with what they're doing. You know.
Right. I want my money back in spades. That's all I want, right? I don't care about a penny. Just show me a baby.
They say you want your money back in steaks?
Yes, it's steaks, Wagyu steaks.
Brother, right now meat is way too expensive. You're lucky out there in Texas.
Did you see where they lifted the ban on beef in Japan for the United States? Part of the tariff stuff.
Wagyu.
Not Wagyu. That comes from Japan. That comes from a company trip. They lifted the ban on beef to go to Japan. One of the largest tariff raisings that have ever happened in tariff history. You can hate Trump. You can love Trump. I don't care, but a lot is happening under this administration. And I just want to say to all you guys that are out there involved strategically, like we are, get involved in our groups, get involved in our talks, get involved and just get involved. You want to learn more, get involved. You don't want to learn anything, sit back, listen to the shows and enjoy. But don't.
There's a lot of people asking questions about BlockNet. Look, here's the deal, people. I want to share that with you, but I'm going to share with Miss April. She can put it on her show. So hang tight. I want to do a little more research. I love so far, and I have spent probably about a day and a half so far looking into it. I do love what they're talking about, but I'm a person who does my stuff real thoroughly. So before I start blabbing about BlockNet, I just want to throw that at her. I know y'all caught that. My bad. Okay, but let's me and her go over it, and she can share with you guys, all right? What it is that BlockNet, what the benefit is, how we invest in it. and the whole 9 yards. I do want to throw one more quick thing out there, Mr. B.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Miss April, somebody said today, XRP is not a damn cryptocurrency. All it is in Ripple. I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it. If that's what it really is, I was jumping around going, please, I hope whoever said that, I hope they're 100% accurate, because everybody has been trying to figure out how to invest in Ripple. Not so much XRP as much as is Ripple. This person's like, they're not even a real crypto. It's just stock and Ripple. And I was like, I'll take it. Seriously, I got excited about it. Okay, the other thing too, real quick, I do got a Pimpy t-shirt, but you guys can, hey, I love Pimpy t-shirts.
I'll give you guys
a picture of me. It says Pimpy, and Mr. Brando's in his group. There's a picture of me on my Pimpy t-shirt.
Right, and here I'll give you guys one more. This is a Pimpy special. Okay, I'm gonna drop his bomb for him. Bitcoin Cash, right, Pimpy?
Yes, 243% jump since February the 14th, where Bitcoin has only been 101%. But what I hit Miss April up with earlier. What was that coin again? I forgot the name of it. Damn it! Oh, Matic Network, 1,000 jump.
All right, hold on.
Buyer beware on some of those. I don't know.
All right. Hold on. Since I give Pimpy, I give
penny coins to jump on, or penny networks in which we can make a lot of money. That would have been the
nice.
one.
Miss BB, give me your dark horse. Give me your dark horse.
Michael B invested in XRP at 2 cents. Way to go, bro.
Okay, Miss BB.
Remember I was telling you about earlier, for those of you who don't wear this, there are now professional athletes requesting that they are getting paid in Bitcoin. I was like, what the hell?
Oh,
yeah. 50 Cent got paid a whole album. An entertainer, 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. He got paid basically off of Bitcoin.
Let me ask this.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Hold on. He got like $600 in Bitcoin, and it was way more later. But he didn't include his bankruptcy, and there were
$8 million worth.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody's asking tomorrow, will you be doing your rant, Mr. Brando?
No. Unlike most of these YouTubers out there, I have a real job, and I have to go do it.
You don't
Sorry.
know with the scanner, just so you know.
Yeah. I wish I could. I wish I could sit in my.
Now,
my house and do nothing.
So, Mr. Brando, hold on,
Pimpy, hold on, Pimpy, hold on.
So, will you be doing a show Friday?
Yeah, I'll do a show Friday, but look out for a time, and look out for, it might be like me, Jason, Pimpy, Miss BB again. I don't know how much news I'll get. It might be like a Monday show. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing a show Friday. What time? Don't look for it at 7 o'clock.
It'll be later.
It might be 9 o'clock. I don't know.
Okay.
Depends on what time
it's going to be later than 7, probably. Just say that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll bring.
James is asking a question that a lot of people have asked. If you guys, I have a political group. It's me talking. It's very politically charged. There's some of you guys that are in my group. I can see you guys are asking how to get hold of me. You guys are more than welcome to go to the group. Just babe, if that's okay, like you did last time, just hit a babe.
Yeah, babe or Miss BB, go ahead and post up your link. If you want to join Uncle Luke's group on Facebook, we'll pin post it on everything we do. You know we'll do that.
Yeah, there's actually full of you that are in there. You know what I'm talking about. It is politically charged, all right? And the thing is, when I
gotta have thick skin.
Everything I do is researched.
In that group, y'all. I'm not in that group.
Why?
I think Miss April is, aren't you, Miss
Yeah,
April?
I'm in there.
I'm not thick skinned.
I gave a shout out the other day. I said that Miss April gave me a link to a very good video that I liked, and so
I'm not in that group. I'm not saying anything bad, but they know that I have, I get in my feels, and so like I'm not in that group. But know this: if you want to join Pimpy's group and talk to Pimpy one-on-one, I'm going to start tagging. We'll pin post him in our descriptions. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. And then, okay, so for all our Hawaii viewers out there, I just posted a guide I found. I just Googled it real quick. So hopefully that'll help you find a cryptocurrency exchange, because Hawaii has funky laws. Mm-hmm. So I know that you can't use Coinbase and you can't use
Binance,
Robinhood, and some of the other ones. So,
Miss April, you see the damn Democrats are trying to make cryptocurrencies illegal.
They're trying to take my guns too.
Okay,
my guns.
It's
Trying to
8:30.
murder babies. Gosh damn it, taking our money from cryptocurrencies. And check this out. They're trying to put a restriction on the amount of gold and silver that you own. Why the hell is anybody voting Democrats? For all you Democrats in the
Hey, come on.
Hold on. Miss BB's a staunch Democrat, and I have to
stop
go.
talking. This is not a political channel.
This is not politically incorrect. I've got to go. Miss BB's got to go.
Go to my group on Facebook. You can hear me rant.
I love you guys, and you know what? And you can see Jason.
I want to get in touch with you. I want to be able to bench press an island too, just like you. Okay.
I'm gonna pinpoint Jason on Twitter. I want to pinpoint him. We'll pin him in here. Well, get it, damn it.
Twitter. I don't do Twitter.
You got everything else. Get Twitter.
We'll figure it out.
I still have MySpace for us old school people.
God. Bye, Uncle Luke.
Hey, you want to go?
Bye, everybody.
Go back to your MySpace profile. Look at it.
Bye.